The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, it is now 1 o'clock and we'd like to get started on our webinar. It is Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. We hope you all are doing well. You are here for session 4, How to Succeed as an IOR. This is part 4 in a 5-part series. So please join us till the end of this webinar and we'll let you know when the next session 5, summary of all the previous sessions will be shared with you. If you haven't done so already, the handouts for this presentation are in the Go-To panel under the Handout section. So you'll find that the presentation is there, and also you'll find a PDF document, Tips from the Experts, a guide for working on projects under OSHPD's jurisdiction. That's also there. Both of these documents are in PDF format, and you'll find that if you download them and you flip through them, they are very useful tools that you can use as you work as an IOR under these projects. You are here for what is just over a 30-minute presentation, a bit shorter than what you're used to. Again, like I said, this is the part 4 in a 5-part series that helps guide you through how to prepare for the IOR exam. We'll play a recording today, which is a bit different than what we've been doing before, but you may hear some previous dates, as you see on you're going to see on the first slide, that it's an old date, but the information is still relevant. It's still good information. So again, like I said before, stay tuned until the end, and we'll let you know when part 5 is going to be shared with you. You will all be muted during the presentation, so if you have a question, please type it into the question bar in the Go-To panel, and we'll answer it throughout the presentation. Today, we will not be answering questions at the end, so if you have a question, please do type it into that question box, and we'll answer the question as we go through. If you have a specific question that you don't want to share, and you want to have a direct conversation with the Inspection Services Unit, or ISU, please email us at oshpd.fddisu@oshpod.ca.gov. Again, that's oshpd.fddisu@oshpd.ca.gov. If you experience presentation difficulties such as video or audio, please log off and log back in using the registration link that the Go-To software sent you, and we'll do the same on our end if we experience the same. So today for presenter, we have Ms. Monica Colosi, Compliance Officer within the Inspection Services Unit. So Monica, if you're there, the presentation is all yours.
Thank you, Cesar. Good morning to everybody. And also I want to remind, if you missed the prior sessions, you would like to have the PDF, email us as well at the same email that Cesar shared before, the oshpod.fddisu@oshpod.ca.gov. So that being said, let's start. I hope that this webinar will be helpful. Bear with me. My apologies for my accent. So as for the agenda, we will talk about the exam, the IOR exam, how is the best way that we would like to share how to arrive to answer to the questions, and then also how to be a strong IOR. And this one is related to know the code, how to read a construction document, how to communicate, especially with the hospital owner, and about the kickoff meeting. And we will talk about different responsibilities. And then we will talk also about the schedule, difference between construction schedule, inspection schedule. We will talk about how to review ACD, ASI. We will explain better those. And we will talk about the performance of the IOR. That being said, let's start with the sample of the questions. Nobody knows the code 100%. If you know, you are extremely good. But nobody knows really the code 100%. The key is how to research the code. This means to know the table of contents. And I'm not saying that you also should memorize, and I don't tell you, of course, how you should have the knowledge about the table of contents. But what we want to share is that table of contents is the key about how to navigate and to arrive to the specific section that, in this case, for the exam, is what you need to know to arrive to the response. And later on, when you will be at the job site, how to arrive to whatever subject you need to talk about and try to figure it out, whatever problem is. So let's start and go with the first question. And this is an admin code question. In accordance with section 7151F, or when required by the office, who shall submit to the office a verified compliance report with their signature and based on their own personal knowledge? A, the architect, B, the engineer, C, the inspector, D, the approved agency, E, the special inspector, F, contractor, owner, builder, G, all the above. So how you should arrive to provide the response for this? Let me try to change, okay. The admin code, the part one of the code, is almost like a Bible for you, and as a table of contents like any other code. And remember, I mentioned that the table of contents is the way to guide you to the specific content. So here is the list of the chapter. Chapter 7 is about health facilities, and this is what the exam is about, right? So by going to chapter 7, what do you see? You will go to the chapter 7, and if the slide cooperates, yes. So you have on the chapter 7 different articles. Now, you know that the question is about the VCR. So where do you think VCR should be included? Is during construction. Therefore, the article 4 is the article that you need to go take a look because it's specific construction. And so, oops, sorry. Go back up. There is a little bit of delay, my apologies. So not only you can find the VCR portion in the article 4, but the question also directs you to the same question. The question said section 7151F. And so when you go there, because in this case, the question directs you to the specific question section, or you know that about the VCR, you need to arrive to the article 4, you arrive to verified compliance report. And here, highlighted in yellow, is the list of people that needs to submit to the VCR. And so it's listed the architect, the engineer, the inspector of record, the approved agency, special inspector, contractor, owner, builder. So in this case, the answer will be G. Let's go to another question, and in this case, we're going to have the architecture question. In hospitals, which one of the following is not required to be included within a dressing room for a nuclear medicine space? A, nurse call station, B, seat or bench, C, mirror, D, provisions for hanging clothes. So here, how you arrive to the response. Back to the index guideline under hospital, there is a specific nuclear medicine, that 1224.34. Once you are there, start to look for patient dressing rooms, because that is the specific question for the exam. And by the way, I want to remind that these samples of the questions are not the same questions that you will have at the exam. So these are samples that you will never see at the exam, the actual exam. So once you are on the patient dressing, you read the requirement. And so by reading the requirement, what do you notice? You notice that the seat bench is listed, the mirror is listed, provisions for hanging clothes is also listed. The nurse call station is not listed. Therefore, that is the right answer. And now let's go to another example for mechanical question. In fuel gas piping, per pressure testing and inspection, the minimum test pressure and test duration for hospital with fuel gas piping at house pressure should be no less than, and here we have the 4 options, the 3 psi for 30 minutes, 5 psi for 15 minutes, 10 psi for 15 minutes, and 5 psi for 30 minutes. So how do you arrive to the actual response? So once again, you go to the index that shows the chapter 13, which is the fuel gas piping, which is our question. From here, look into the chapter 13, and you find the test pressure section. The question asked is for the minimum test pressure and test duration for the hospital. So you go to the section 13.3, the test pressure, and highlighted is basically the answer, which would be the response C, 10 psi for 15 minutes. One more example for code question. I truly promise that this is the last one for code question example. And this is for the electrical. In elevator, dumb waiters, escalator, moving walks, platform, stairway, chairlift, a sump pump located in an elevator hoist should be permitted to be cord connected. The cord should be a hard usage oil resistant type of a length not to exceed which length and should be protected from physical damage. So here we have the 4 options. And how do you arrive to the right answer? So in chapter 6 of the electrical code, special equipment arrives to the elevator is the section 620 is highlighted in yellow. Now going to the section 620, you need to look for the cord connection, where cord connection should be. This is in the wiring method. So we move forward and keep flipping the pages of the section, the 620, you will arrive to the wiring method. And this is the part 3, section 620.21. And you will find information for your response. So here highlighted, it gives that the cord requirement length is not to exceed 6 feet. Therefore, the answer would be B. So far, so good, I hope. So these are the samples that I said for the code. But now let's go and talk about the plans. Who needs to do the exam for the plans is Class A and Class B. So Class A also is in overall. The questions for the code are for architectural, structural, anchorage bracing, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, fire, life safety. Class B is like Class A minus the structural. So keep in mind that. And what you will see in the plans. In general, the typical drawings are general sheets where there are symbols, legend, abbreviation, general notes. Then there are plans, elevations, sections, and then in a larger scale, there are more plans, more elevation, more sections. The details are standalone because the scale, of course, is different. And then there are also schedules and diagrams. So now, just one example for the plan question is in the OR room, the height of the stainless steel wainscot is, and here there are the multiple options. So how you arrive to the response to understand the height of the wainscot? A vertical information, of course, so you cannot find on the floor plan. You need to go to the reference, you need to arrive to the interior elevation. You look the interior elevation, you look where the information is, in this case for the wainscot, and there is the answer, 4 feet. So if now I would like to ask you, can the IOR Class B inspect and approve structural elements? Think about, is a yes, is a no? So I said already before the difference between the Class A and Class B. The answer is no. Class B doesn't inspect the structural element. So now that we spoke about the exam and how to process to arrive to the response, let's talk about how to be a strong IOR. Clearly, since in order to become an IOR, you have to pass the code question, it means that the IOR needs to know the code. This is part of the IOR strength, as well knowing how to read plans, to read specifications, to understand ACD, ASIs, RFIs, construction schedule, IOR log, and understand and identify the responsibility of the IOR, right? So the code. We all know code is not easy. There are lots of books for the code. So try again, like I said from the beginning, table of contents is something that you should figure it out how to memorize, because that will help you to guide whatever problem there is at the job site. And problems on site are a lot. So the best practice for your profession is to know how to navigate through the codes and be at the job site, understand what is going on. If a problem comes up, try not to rush for a response just because like this you can sound competent. No, analyze, think, then provide the response. Don't feel intimidated. If you feel the pressure from, my apologies, if you have pressure from the contractor or from the owner or from design professionals, try to push away this pressure. Be analytical, think, and then provide the response. The code improves and gets updates during time by time. And these are symbols that you notice in the book. Each symbol indicates something different. For example, the first symbol that you see indicates the changes that are made to a California amendment. And then the second symbol is for the deletion of the California amendment language. The third one is for a change of the ICC model code language. The next one is for the deletion of the ICC model code language. And the last two are for relocation of some information for text or table in other part of the code. I said there are many codes, and what happens when there are conflicts between codes? If the conflict is between general and specific requirements should be applicable. Reference codes and standards are considered part of the requirements. And what happens when there are conflicts, let's say, between provisions and reference code and standards? The provisions shall apply. Provisions of scope of the code shall take a precedence over provisions in the reference code standards. So now, if I want to ask you, where there is the conflict between a general requirement and a specific requirement, which requirement should be applicable, the general requirement or the specific requirement? The specific requirement, and I hope that you thought the same. So now, let's continue to talk about, trying to go back, perfect. The needs about knowledge for the IOR. IOR needs to know how to read approved construction document. And for construction document, I mean construction drawings and the specifications. Here there is a checklist that the design professional should use to provide a complete set of plans. Of course, depending on the scope of work, all this can be applicable or can be less. It depends again from the scope of work. But by default, by instinct also, you want probably to look only the drawings. But this is not everything. The specifications are also important, are part of the construction document. Code 7.115 for the admin code refers to the specifications. These are part of the construction document. And how these specifications can be part of the project. Depending on the side of the project, there is a different type of format of the specifications. If there is a small project, usually the specifications are included in the drawings. But if the project is big, the size of the scope is big, it is better way to keep track on all the specifications, and that is the project manual that is divided in divisions, as you can see here. So now, if I ask you, what is part of the construction document? Construction drawings only, specifications only, or both construction drawings and specifications? I hope you answer construction drawings and specifications. Now, who hires the IOR? If you follow the prior sessions already, we spoke about it, but here is also a reminder. The hospital owner hires you. The hospital governing board or authority and the DPOR, they select the IOR. The hospital submit the application to the office, propose which IOR they would like to have, and eventually the office will provide the approval. This is how the process is. Before all the construction begins, there should be the pre-construction meeting, the kickoff meeting. This is a very important meeting. What happens during this meeting, and better say, what should be discussed during this meeting? Who should be part of this meeting? The DPOR, including also the staff OSHPD, the IOR, the owner, the construction manager, if he's part of the project, all of them should attend the meeting. Scope of the project, construction schedule, inspection schedule, IOR responsibility, goals, all of this should be discussed during the kickoff meeting. I will oversay, do not underestimate the kickoff meeting. The better you set up everything, the team set up better the pre-construction, the better the project could be, because there will be no misunderstanding. Now, what about the schedule? In the construction schedule, there are different information. There are milestones, there are inspection schedule, the construction phases, everything is included. The schedule might change during the construction, so you need to get always the updated construction schedule. The inspection is part of the construction schedule. So if I ask you, are construction schedule and inspection schedule the same? The answer is no. So now let's talk about the difference between changes, material changes versus non-material changes. The ASI, that is the Architect Supplemental Instruction, is a non-material change, like clarifications, equal substitution, relocation that do not require major modification that affect the code requirement. And instead, we have the material change that is the ACD, the Amended Construction Document. The ACD needs to be submitted for approval. Both ASIs and ACD needs to have the stamp for the DPOR. Always compare the approved drawing versus the ASI and ACD. Look the difference. Sometimes because whatever miscoordination or wherever, the ASI might be not even necessary, the ACD might be not necessary. So pay attention on the difference of the document, pay attention on what really is going on the construction, and try to give an advice, if possible, to the team. So now if I ask you another question, which document needs to be issued for material change? Would be the ASI or would be the ACD? The answer is the ACD. Now let's talk about performance of the IOR. The IOR should be familiar with many things. Should be familiar with the code, should be familiar with the PIN, which is the police intent notice, should be familiar with the CAN, that is the code application notice. Should be familiar with the entire contract document, for the drawings, for the specifications, all the requirements, should have knowledge about the project schedule, is on schedule for the inspections, should be familiar with hospital procedure, temporary barrier and egress requirement, as well as other requirement, other infection control, various parties involved with the project, emergency procedure, safety requirement, all the reports, including the radiology physicist, the medical equipment, engineering judgment. All of this is part of the IOR knowledge. What about the duties? 7145 for the admin code talks about the continuous inspections of work. The IOR should have a personal knowledge with the continuous inspection. Don't forget the IOR works under the DPOR. And this is the tricky part because it's the owner that hires you, but you work under direction of the DPOR, which basically is a teamwork. The IOR should maintain a file of the approved construction document. Should keep at the job site not only those, but should keep also the field records. Should notify the office if there is a foundation trenches completion, or should also notify the office if there is a placing of concrete, and 48 hours prior those, it needs to be notified the office, or where there is a suspension of work for more than 2 weeks. So all of this per code, the IOR needs to notify the office. The office performs observation, and per the admin code 7147, if there is a violation of the code, a writing report will be issued describing the violation and also provide the code reference. Something happened there, Caesar. Let me go back.
Yeah,
no, it's okay, no big deal. Try to go to slide 51. It's okay.
That's interesting. How's that?
That works good. That's fine. Thank you, Caesar. So now, what about monitoring of the hospital inspector of records performance? So who is monitoring the IOR performance? OSHPD field monitors the IOR performance. The admin code 7213 is the actual code and says that if the IOR performance is not happening, the office will notify the inspector, the owner, the DPOR. A written notification will include the office findings, reference of the violation, and a statement of the office intent to issue a stop work order unless the violation gets resolved immediately and everything gets better. So what about suspensions, revocation? I know this is not a nice subject, but we need to share. Suspensions and revocation per admin code 7214 are determined by the office. And it depends from incompetent inspections, inadequate inspections, misrepresentation, misconduct, and or violation. So based upon consideration of the evidence presented, the office should determine whether or not reasonable grounds exist for the suspensions or revocation of the certification. The office will notify the certificate holder in writing. There is the opportunity to participate in a formal conference and or present additional evidence before a final determination is made 15 days from the notice. Then there will be no more than other 15 days from the conference, the final decision from the office. So what is in a short way the suspension? When occurs the suspensions? Suspensions happens for solitary, limited, or isolated incident. Revocation happens for repeated or continuous deviation from the general standard. A certifications, one is revoked, is no longer valid and may not be renewed. IOR may not apply a new certification for a period of 3 years from the date of the office final written determination that identified in the admin code 7214C. And what about the appeal? For the appeal, a final written determination of the office related to the suspension and or for the revocation of the certificate may be appealed by the certificate holder pursuant. I know it's lots of information, but you can find in the code, the admin code 7214. So in a very warm advice, what could be a good IOR performance? Be responsible, be respectful, know the code. Again, you cannot know the code 100%. You know, you need to learn how to navigate the code. Know the project, know the duties, be collaborative, have a good communication with the team. The team is not only the owner rep that hires you, but it's also the OSHPD, the field staff, the design professionals, the contractor, the CM if he's part of the project. Guide for working on project under OSHPD jurisdiction.
Okay, that's the end of the recording. For those of us who stuck with us until the end, thank you for being here, and want to remind you that if you have specific questions about the presentation, please feel free to email us at oshpd.fddisu@oshpod.ca.gov. Again, that's oshpd.fddisu@oshpd.ca.gov. And if you haven't done so already, feel free to download the PDF version of the presentation for today, which includes these slides and also includes the tips from the experts guide for working on projects under OSHPD's jurisdiction. Coming up, we have session 5, which is going to be held February 9th, 2021. So feel free to register for that last presentation in this series. Again, that's February 9th, 2021, which is going to be session 5. And it's going to be a summary of all of the presentations we've done so far in this series. So this concludes our presentation for today. And we want to thank you for your interest in becoming a Certified Inspector of Record, or IOR, with the Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development. So until next time, stay healthy and stay safe.